The Celestara drifted through the stars like a floating city of light. Inside its golden halls, hundreds of alien nobles gathered for the grand feast of victory. The air shimmered with soft music, glowing ribbons of color, and the smell of rare fruits from 10 worlds. Every seat at the long crystal table was filled, except one. The chair beside the giant alien Empress Vorya remained empty. She sat at the head of the hall, tall and still, her silver crown catching the glow of distant starlight. Her skin glimmered faintly like molten metal, and her long white hair flowed over her shoulders like liquid glass. Around her neck hung a black gem that pulsed once every few seconds, like a slow heartbeat. No one dared to look at it for too long. Whispers floated through the hall. "Her touch kills," one alien muttered. "Her aura burns minds," said another. "They say the last man who sat beside her screamed until his soul vanished." Even her royal guards stood at a distance, eyes lowered. The musicians avoided playing too close to her dais. The Empress didn't speak. She simply stared at the stars outside the wide glass wall, her silver eyes full of something between sorrow and fury. Then the side doors opened. A human janitor entered. Eli Ronan carried a cleaning bucket in one hand and a small mop in the other. His grey jumpsuit looked old, his boots worn. He had no rank, no title, no reason to be in a hall filled with alien royalty. But he had work to do. He didn't even notice the sudden silence as he crossed the marble floor. The alien stared at him as if he were a ghost. One of the nobles hissed, "Remove that creature. The feast is sacred." Eli stopped and blinked. "Oh, sorry. I was told to clean before the next ceremony." He spoke calmly, politely, as if he didn't sense the danger hanging over him. The Empress turned her head. The sound of her movement was like the low hum of thunder. Her silver eyes met his. The hall froze. Even the candles flickered lower, as though afraid. "What is your name?" she asked. Her voice was deep but soft, carrying through the room without effort. Eli straightened. "Eli, ma'am. Janitor, maintenance section 7. "You may go," said a guard quickly. "The Empress requires no—" "Silence," she commanded. The guard froze instantly, his mouth still open. The Empress studied the human as if she were trying to remember something from long ago. Then, slowly, she pointed to the empty seat beside her throne. "Sit," she said. Gasps filled the hall. One noble dropped his glass. Another whispered, "She wants him dead." Eli's heart beat fast. He didn't understand what kind of joke this was. But something about her eyes, something sad and lonely, made him take a step forward. Then another. He climbed the dais. The closer he got, the more intense the air became. It felt heavy, like the gravity had doubled. Still he didn't stop. When he reached the seat, he looked at her once more. "Are you sure, ma'am? I'll just be a minute." "Sit," she repeated, so he did. The hall went completely silent. Not a breath, not a sound. Every noble watched, waiting for lightning to strike him dead. Eli sat stiffly, hands on his knees, unsure of what to do. The Empress leaned closer. Her eyes reflected his human face in perfect silver. And then, in a low voice that only he could hear, she whispered something that made his blood turn cold. "Eli Ronan." "You came back," he frowned. "Excuse me?" Her lips curved slightly, not a smile, but something close. "After all these cycles, you returned to me." Eli blinked in confusion. He had never seen her before. He had never even left Earth before this job. But as she spoke, the black gem at her throat pulsed brighter. And for a moment, just a moment, he saw a flash in his mind. A burning battlefield, chains, and a woman with the same silver eyes reaching toward him through the smoke. Then it was gone. The nobles murmured in fear. The Empress raised her hand. "Leave us," she commanded. Every alien rose and hurried out, their footsteps echoing through the vast chamber until the hall was empty again. Only the Empress and the human janitor remained. She turned her gaze back to him, her voice quiet but heavy with emotion. "Do you remember the mines of Krethar?" Eli's breath caught. "No," he said softly. "I've never been there." The gem pulsed again. Somewhere deep in his chest, a strange ache began to grow, and outside the window among the stars, a storm began to form. The storm outside the Celestara deepened. lightning flickering across the dark space beyond the glass wall. The lights inside the grand hall dimmed, as if the ship itself were holding its breath. Only the Empress and the human Janitor remained seated beside one another, a sight that would have terrified any soul still present. Eli tried to stay calm. His mop rested against the chair, his heart thudding in his chest. The Empress's gaze never left his face. It was like being watched by the moon itself, cold, endless, and strangely familiar. "What did you call me?" Eli asked finally. The Empress tilted her head slightly. "Eli Ronan," she repeated, her voice soft, yet carrying power that made the air vibrate. "You came back, though you should not have been able to." Eli gave an awkward half-laugh. "I think you're confusing me with someone else. I'm just a janitor, from Earth." Vorya's silver eyes narrowed slightly, like two stars collapsing inward. "Earth," she whispered. "Yes, the cradle world, the one that burned the skies long ago." Eli blinked. "You mean history? That was centuries ago. Humans never fought your people." The Empress rose slowly from her throne. She was enormous, not monstrous but majestic. Her armor gleamed faintly as she stepped closer, her shadow swallowing him in silver-blue light. "You are certain of that?" she asked. "Because I remember the screams of your kind in the mines of Krithar. I remember the fire, and I remember you." Eli's hands trembled slightly. "That's impossible." The Empress leaned closer, her face inches from his. "Then why do I see your face when I close my eyes?" Before he could answer, the black gem at her throat began to glow. A pulse of soft light spread from it, washing across the floor, filling the room with a faint hum. Eli's eyes widened as images flickered in his mind again. Metal tunnels, fire, and a man's hands gripping chains slick with blood. He saw the same silver eyes, only this time they were full of fear. Eli gasped and stumbled backward, breaking the vision. "What was that? What did you do to me?" The Empress's expression changed. For a moment her voice lost all its power. "I did nothing. It is happening on its own." Her hands trembled slightly before she clenched them behind her back. "For years I dreamed of a voice whispering my name, a voice from another time. Tonight that voice finally stood beside me." Eli rubbed his forehead. "This doesn't make sense. I've never been here before. I've never met you." "Perhaps not in this life," she said quietly. He stared at her. "You mean reincarnation?" "Not exactly." Her voice grew distant, almost fragile. "Our ancestors once experimented with memory essence, fragments of soul stored within the blood. When two carriers meet, the echoes awaken. But humans were believed extinct before that science ever reached your world." Eli laughed nervously. "So what? You think I've got some alien's memories inside me?" The Empress looked at him with sadness. "No. I think you carry the memory of the human who saved me once, long before you were born." A low alarm hummed somewhere deep within the ship. The Empress turned sharply toward the sound. "They are coming," she whispered. "Who's coming?" Eli asked, standing quickly. "The High Council," she said. They sensed the psychic surge. "They will accuse me of bonding with a lesser being." Eli frowned. "For just sitting here?" "For touching fate," she replied. "It is forbidden." Moments later, the great doors of the hall hissed open. Dozens of armored guards marched in, followed by tall, robed figures, the Council of Elders. Their glowing eyes turned toward the Empress and the human standing beside her. One elder stepped forward, his voice echoing through the hall. "Empress Vorya, explain this abomination." Eli opened his mouth to speak, but the Empress raised a hand. Her calm returned like a silent storm. "Leave him," she commanded. "He is under my protection," the elder hissed. "A human? The lowest life form in the galaxy? You defile the throne." Eli clenched his fists. "I didn't ask for any of this." "Silence," the elder barked, but the Empress stepped forward, her height towering over all. "Enough," she said coldly. "This man is not what you believe him to be, and if you harm him, you doom yourselves." A silence heavier than metal filled the hall. One of the guards aimed a spear that glowed with plasma. "Then perhaps we doom you first, Empress." Her eyes burned brighter. "Try," she said. The lights flickered again. The gem at her neck pulsed once more, and as the guards lunged forward, every light in the hall exploded. The world went black. Darkness swallowed the whole. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound, no breath, only the echo of the explosion fading into silence. Then came the soft hum of emergency lights flickering to life. The grand hall of Calistara was now drenched in red. Eli blinked rapidly, his ears ringing. Smoke curled through the air, shimmering like ghostly mist. The guards were gone, scattered or unconscious. The elders had vanished. Only the Empress remained, standing tall amid the ruin, her silver eyes glowing faintly through the smoke. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp. Eli shook his head. "What just happened?" "The bond," she whispered. "It's awakening faster than I feared." Before Eli could reply, the floor trembled beneath them. Somewhere deep inside the ship, a mechanical roar echoed, followed by the sharp hiss of pressure vents releasing. The Empress turned toward the sound, her expression hardening. "They are trying to seal the chamber," she said. "We have minutes before the air is drained." Eli's instincts kicked in. "There's a service tunnel beneath the dais," he said, pointing to a small hatch hidden behind the throne. "I cleaned it this morning." The Empress gave a small nod. "Lead the way." He dropped to his knees, pried open the hatch, and climbed down the narrow ladder. The air inside the maintenance shaft was hot and metallic. When the Empress followed, the tunnel walls groaned under her weight, glowing faintly from the energy in her armor. For a long moment they crawled through darkness, the only sound their breathing and the hum of distant machinery. Then Eli stopped. "We're clear here," he said softly, sitting down against the wall. "Can you tell me what's going on now?" The Empress hesitated before speaking. "You saw something before the lights went out. A vision. What did you see?" Eli rubbed his temples. "I don't know. I saw chains, fire. I was underground, surrounded by your people, and you were there too, younger. You were crying." The Empress closed her eyes. "That was no dream," she said quietly. "That was a memory." "Yours?" he asked. "Ours," she replied. She sat beside him, folding her long limbs gracefully even in the cramped tunnel. "Centuries ago there was a war between my empire and a human rebellion that rose from the mining colonies. A man led them. His name was Eliar, brave, foolish. He freed thousands from the mines of Krythar." Eli frowned. "Eliar sounds a bit like my name." "It is not coincidence," she said. "When Eliar was captured, I was ordered to execute him. I disobeyed. I freed him instead, and together we tried to end the war. But the council betrayed us. They killed him and forced me to watch." Her voice wavered for the first time, low and pained. "Before he died, our scientists attempted to preserve fragments of his mind through blood resonance. They believed our connection could one day be reborn." Eli stared at her, stunned. "And you think that's me?" She turned her gaze on him. "The bond doesn't lie. When I saw you, I felt his presence, his courage, his defiance, his heart. It's the same." He laughed nervously, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "So I'm the ghost of some ancient rebel hero? That's a bit much for a janitor." The Empress's lips curved faintly, almost a smile. "Perhaps fate does not care for titles." Suddenly, Eli flinched. A sharp pain shot through his head, and he saw another flash, the same tunnels, the same chains. But this time he saw her kneeling beside him, clutching his hands as soldiers dragged her away. He gasped, gripping his chest. "I saw it again! I saw you! You tried to stop them." The Empress reached out, her cool hand resting gently on his shoulder. "The bond is growing stronger. The Council will not allow this. They will hunt us both." Eli swallowed hard. "Then we run," she nodded slowly. "There is nowhere in the galaxy they will not find me, but you. You may still have a choice." He met her eyes, steady now. "Then I choose to stay." For the first time, the Empress looked almost human. Her eyes soft, her face caught between pride and sorrow. "You speak as he once did," she whispered. A sudden boom shook the tunnel. Voices echoed in the distance, the Council's soldiers. The Empress stood quickly. "They found us. We must move." As they crawled deeper into the service shaft, the hum of the ship grew louder, the storm outside roaring like a beast in the stars. Behind them, faint light glowed along the walls, the same pattern as the gem on her chest, now pulsing in rhythm with Eli's heartbeat. Neither of them noticed it yet. The council chamber of the Celestara was carved from obsidian glass. its walls alive with faint energy patterns that pulsed like veins. At its center stood a massive circular platform surrounded by hovering lights, the tribunal ring. Every law of the Empire had been written and broken in that room. Now the Empress stood inside it. Her silver armor was scorched from the explosion, her crown dimmed. Beside her stood Eli, bound in glowing cuffs that hummed with containment energy. All around them, the alien lords sat high above in golden seats, their eyes burning with judgment. The High Chancellor rose, his long robe trailing like smoke. "Empress Vorya," he thundered, "you are accused of bonding with a lesser species. You have brought dishonor upon the Empire. What do you say in your defense?" Vorya didn't look away. Her voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut through the chamber's tension. "I bonded with no one," she said. The link formed of its own will, something ancient, older than the laws you hide behind. The Chancellor sneered. "Blasphemy. The mind bond is forbidden for a reason. It corrupts the bloodline and weakens command. You risk the sanity of the throne." Eli shifted uncomfortably, feeling every gaze burning through him. He had never felt smaller. "Look, I didn't do anything," he said. "I was cleaning the floor. You all act like I caused a war." Laughter echoed from one of the council benches, harsh and cold. "The human speaks," said an elder. "How fitting that the garbage of a dying planet should sit beside our queen." Eli's jaw tightened. He took a step forward, but the cuffs flared, sending a sharp jolt through his arms. "Don't talk about my planet like that," he said, teeth clenched. "We may be small, but we survived worse than your judgment." A ripple of shock ran through the chamber. The Empress turned her head slightly, and for a moment a faint spark of pride crossed her eyes. The Chancellor slammed his staff. "Silence. You will not speak unless spoken to, human." But Vorya stepped forward, her voice like thunder now. "He will speak," she said. "You will listen. The bond does not make him my weakness. It reveals your fear." Gasps echoed across the chamber. The council guards raised their weapons, but none dared fire. The Chancellor's tone dropped to a growl. "Then explain this bond, Empress. Explain why our sensors detected a psychic surge powerful enough to wake the creature buried beneath this ship." Eli blinked. "What creature?" The Empress's face darkened. "The beast below, a failed experiment. A fusion of human and alien DNA, built long ago to test if our species could share the same bloodline. It was sealed away when the experiments turned violent." The Chancellor smiled cruelly. "And now, thanks to you, it stirs again." The lights flickered. Deep under the ship, something rumbled, a low, distant roar that made the floor tremble. Eli swallowed hard. "You're saying that thing is awake because of us?" "Yes," Vorya said. "Our bond may have triggered the energy resonance in its containment field. It senses the same bloodline, the same energy pattern." The Chancellor's voice rose. "Then there is no question. The Empress is unfit to rule. She will be stripped of her crown and imprisoned." Before the guards could move, Vorya's gem blazed bright white. The cuffs around Eli's wrists shattered like glass. In one swift motion, she stepped between him and the soldiers. "You will not touch him," she said. "You will not touch the last echo of the one who saved me." The Chancellor's face twisted in rage. "Then you choose him over your throne?" Vorya looked back at Eli, her expression calm but resolute. "The throne was built on lies. I will not let history repeat itself." Suddenly the floor shook again, stronger this time. The sound of tearing metal roared through the chamber. From far below, a massive energy surge lit the lower decks. Eli looked toward the glow. "That thing. It's coming up, isn't it?" "Yes," she said. "It's coming for me." "For us?" The Chancellor's guards scattered as alarms blared through the ship. Red lights flashed across the council chamber. Vorya turned to Eli. "We have no time. If it reaches the upper decks, millions will die." Eli nodded, his fear turning to determination. "Then we stop it. Together." The Empress's eyes glowed brighter than the alarms themselves. "You truly carry his spirit," she whispered. "Elia's courage lives again." And with that she reached out, taking his hand, her power surging through him like a living storm. The chamber filled with wind and light as the Empress and the human vanished. teleporting toward the lower decks, where the roaring of the beast below waited. The lower decks of the Calistara were nothing like the shining halls above. Down here the walls were rusted, pipes hissed steam, and flickering lights revealed broken machines that hadn't been touched in centuries. The air smelled of metal and ozone and fear. When the teleport light faded, Eli stumbled forward, his knees almost buckling. The Empress Vorya landed gracefully beside him, her silver armor humming with energy, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim red light. "Where are we?" Eli asked, catching his breath. "The containment sector," Vorya said quietly. "The place they swore never to open again." A deep rumble shivered through the floor, followed by a metallic roar that made the air vibrate. Dust fell from the ceiling. Far ahead, through layers of shadow and mist, a massive sealed door stood, marked with glowing alien runes, and a single human word burned into the steel. Hybrid EO1. Eli frowned. "Human language. How's that here?" Vorya's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because your ancestors helped create it, before the wars, before the betrayal. It was meant to be peace made flesh, a being born from both our kinds. But it went wrong." Another roar thundered through the chamber, and a large claw slammed against the metal door from the inside. The lights flickered. "It's awake," Eli said softly. Vorya stepped closer to the door, raising her hand. Strange patterns glowed along her palm, the same rhythm pulsing inside the gem at her throat. "It senses me," she murmured. "And you," Eli shivered. "It knows we're here. Yes, it carries the same bloodline signature. It thinks we are its creators." Suddenly, the runes on the door shifted from red to blue, then blinked out one by one. The air hissed as locks disengaged. "Wait," Eli shouted. "You're opening it?" "I'm not." Vorya snapped. "It's opening itself." The door exploded outward in a shower of sparks and smoke. The blast threw Eli against the wall. When the haze cleared, the creature emerged. It was enormous, at least 20 feet tall, its body a fusion of muscle and metal. Its skin shimmered between silver and pale human flesh, its veins glowing faintly blue. Its face, half human, half alien, bore eyes that mirrored both of theirs, one brown, one silver. It looked straight at them and spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from two worlds at once. "Mother." "Father," Eli froze. "It can talk." The Empress's expression tightened. "It shouldn't be able to." The creature tilted its head, studying them both. "You left me in the dark," it said. 1,000 years of silence. Why did you create me, and then chain me?" Vorya's voice softened, almost breaking. "We didn't. You were not meant to suffer. You were meant to be hope." The creature's metal fingers flexed. "Hope?" it repeated bitterly. "They called me failure. They called me monster." Then its gaze fell on Eli. "But you carry his blood." "I feel it." Eli stepped back. "I don't know what you're talking about." The creature's voice grew darker. "I feel his rage inside you. You were there when I was made, in another form. I remember your face before you died." Eli's chest tightened. Another flash struck him, a memory of fire, of chains breaking, of something screaming in the dark. He gasped, clutching his head. Vorya moved between them, raising her hand. "Enough," she commanded. "He is not your enemy." The creature roared, the sound shaking the floor. "You betrayed your own kind for him." It lunged forward faster than a storm. Vorya caught its claws with both hands, the impact blasting air like thunder. Sparks lit the chamber as energy crackled between them. "Run!" she shouted. Eli hesitated. "I'm not leaving you. Do it," she growled. But instead Eli grabbed a fallen pipe and swung it into the creature's leg. The hit barely made it flinch, but the act caught its attention. The hybrid turned toward him, confused. "You protect her," it hissed, just like before. It raised a claw to strike. Vorya leapt forward, pushing Eli out of the way. The claw slashed across her armor, cutting deep. Silver blood splattered across the floor. She dropped to one knee, gasping. "Vorya!" Eli cried, rushing to her side. She gritted her teeth, her voice weak but firm. "Don't let it win. Remember who you are." Eli stared at the creature, fury burning in his chest. "I don't know who I was," he said through clenched teeth, "but I know what I am now." He stood tall, his hand glowing faintly with the same light as her gem. The creature paused, confused, the bond between all three of them pulsing through the air. The Empress looked up, eyes widening. "Eli, the bond. It's linking you to it. I can feel it," he said. "Maybe I can stop it." The hybrid snarled, its form flickering, torn between rage and pain. "Then do it," she whispered. "End this." Eli stepped forward, eyes glowing now with silver light. The chamber filled with roaring wind as the human and the creature faced each other, reflections of the same history. The beast roared again. Eli didn't move, and as the ship shook violently above them, the battle for the future of both species began. The Celestara groaned under the weight of chaos. Metal screamed, alarms blared, and red warning lights flickered across the lower decks. The fight between Eli and the hybrid raged like a storm trapped in a cage. Eli stood barefoot on cracked steel, his jumpsuit torn, his hands glowing faintly silver. The hybrid, that half-human, half-alien giant, circled him like a beast testing its prey. Its mismatched eyes burned with fury and pain. "You were made from me," the creature said, its voice shaking the air. "My blood, my memories, my curse." Eli's chest heaved. "Then maybe I'm here to end it." The creature lunged, its claws slicing through the air. Eli dove aside, barely avoiding the strike. Sparks flew as claws hit the wall. The hybrid moved again, impossibly fast, but Eli raised his arm instinctively, and a wave of light burst outward, sending the monster skidding back. Both froze, the glow faded from Eli's hand. He stared at it in disbelief. What was that? From behind the wreckage, Empress Vorya pushed herself to her feet. Her armor was cracked, her blood silver and shimmering. "The bond," she said weakly. "It's giving you access to my life energy," the hybrid snarled. "Her energy belongs to me. It was made for me." Vorya's voice hardened. "No, it was made for peace, not destruction." The creature screamed, its body twisting. Energy veins flared across its chest, unstable and pulsing. "Peace," it roared. "I was peace, and they buried me alive." The ship shuddered violently. Alarms turned from red to violet, a critical warning. The hybrid's energy was destabilizing the entire reactor system. Vorya staggered forward, her voice echoing through the metallic corridor. "If it continues, it will destroy the ship, and everyone on it." Eli clenched his fists. "Then how do we stop it?" "There is only one way," she said. "The bond must be completed." He frowned. "Completed?" Her silver eyes met his. "Your mind, my power, and its energy were once one source, divided by fear. If you merge with it, you can absorb its chaos, but you may not survive." Eli went silent. The hybrid growled, backing toward the reactor core, a giant glowing sphere beating like a heart. "You think you can save them?" It hissed. "You'll die just like before." "Just like he did." Eli's pulse quickened. "You keep saying before. What are you talking about?" "You were Elia," the creature snarled. "You led the rebellion. You freed the slaves. You betrayed the Empire. And when they came for you, when she tried to save you, you let yourself die for her." Vorya's breath caught. "No," the hybrid smiled darkly. "And now you'll die again. History repeats." Eli felt the memories crash over him, flashes of the past returning like shards of light. The mines, the screams, his old self reaching for her hand through the fire. But this time, he didn't want it to end the same way. He looked at Vorya, her face pale but fierce. "You said once that fate doesn't care for titles," he said softly. "Then maybe it's time someone changed fate." Before she could speak, he sprinted toward the reactor. The hybrid roared and swung its arm, but Eli slid beneath it, grabbing the creature's wrist. The moment their skin touched, a burst of light exploded between them, brighter than lightning. Energy surged through the chamber, throwing Vorya back. The hybrid screamed as its form began to break apart into glowing fragments. Eli gritted his teeth, trying to hold on, the energy tearing through every nerve. "You can't contain me," the creature bellowed. "Maybe not alone," Eli said, eyes glowing white. "But I'm not alone." The Empress, crawling through the wreckage, reached her hand toward him. "Eli." He looked back, their eyes met. and the bond locked into place. The air went silent. Then came the storm. Light poured from Eli and Vorya, swirling together into a silver-white vortex that engulfed the hybrid. The creature screamed, its body turning to shards of light, disintegrating into the core. For a moment all was still. The lights dimmed. The roaring ceased. Eli stood trembling, his skin glowing faintly, his heartbeat echoing like thunder. Vorya approached slowly, tears forming in her silver eyes. "You did it." He smiled faintly. "We did it," but his knees buckled. She caught him before he fell. His hand was fading, his body dissolving into light. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You cannot," he smiled weakly. "It's okay. Maybe I was never supposed to last, just to finish what we started." She pressed her forehead against his. "You gave me peace." Again, his voice faded like a whisper. "And you gave me purpose." The light consumed him completely, and then vanished. Vorya stood alone beside the reactor core, her tears glowing like starlight. Around her the ship steadied, the alarms faded, and the silence that followed was heavy but calm. Outside the viewing port, the storm that had raged among the stars finally cleared, leaving only a sea of light. The Celestara drifted quietly through the void, its once-torn hull glowing faintly under the healing drones that swarmed like silver insects. The storm outside had passed. The ship was alive again, but quieter, softer, almost morning. Deep inside the grand hall, the Empress Vorya walked slowly toward her throne. Her steps echoed in the emptiness. Her crown, slightly cracked from battle, caught the last light of the twin suns beyond the glass wall. The black gem at her throat no longer pulsed. It was dull now, silent. She moved like a queen made of glass, strong but fragile beneath the shine. Around her the nobles stood in uneasy silence. None dared to speak first. The memory of the chaos, the trial, the creature, they all lingered like ghosts. Some still feared her. Others simply didn't understand what she had done. The High Chancellor bowed stiffly. "The hybrid has been neutralized," he said, "but at the cost of countless systems and lives. The throne demands explanation." Vorya stopped at the base of her dais and lifted her gaze. "The throne demands nothing," she said. "The throne listens." The Chancellor frowned. "Empress, the Council must know what became of the human." A silence fell over the chamber. Even the air seemed to hesitate. Vorya's eyes drifted toward the empty seat beside her throne, the same one that had once cursed anyone who dared to sit beside her. It was clean now, polished, but the emptiness still hurt. She touched the armrest gently, her fingers trembling. "He is gone," she said, "but not lost." The nobles exchanged uncertain looks. She turned back to them. "Eli Ronan gave his life to restore balance, to stop the destruction our ancestors began. He was not a soldier, not a lord, not a creature of power, but a man who chose compassion over fear. Tell me," she asked softly, "how many of you would have done the same?" No one answered. Her voice grew colder. "You call yourselves pure-blooded, noble, superior, but none of you had the courage to sit beside me. None, except him." A ripple of shame spread through the hall. She climbed the steps to her throne, her armor glinting faintly in the golden light. When she reached the top, she turned and looked at the galaxy spread before her through the glass. "The human you mocked," she continued, "saved your empire, and I, your empress, will not let his name fade into dust." The nobles lowered their heads. She sat down slowly. The great throne seemed colder than before. For a moment her fingers brushed the gem at her neck. A faint warmth pulsed beneath her skin, and then like a whisper she heard it. "You're not alone." Her breath caught. The voice was soft, human, and impossibly familiar. She looked around. The hall was empty except for the nobles standing far below. No one had spoken. "Vorya." Her eyes widened. The gem glowed faintly, just once like a heartbeat. She smiled faintly, her voice trembling. "Eli?" The voice didn't answer, but she felt it. The warmth in her chest, the quiet comfort of his presence. Somewhere, in the energy of the ship, in the starlight that filled the sky, his essence still lingered. Not gone, just changed. She rose again, her strength returning, her voice clear and steady. From this day, she declared, the seat beside my throne shall never remain empty again. It will stand for courage, for unity, for those who cross the stars not to conquer but to understand. The nobles bowed deeply. Even the Chancellor lowered his head. As she sat once more, she glanced at the empty seat beside her. The light from the stars fell perfectly across it, soft and pure, like an invisible figure sitting there, watching over her. Vorya whispered quietly, so that only she, and perhaps he, could hear. You once said peace was worth dying for. Now I'll make sure it's worth living for. Outside, the stars shimmered brighter, as if answering her vow. The ship turned slowly toward the blue glow of a distant world, Earth, now reborn under alien light. In that endless night between galaxies, the Empress ruled not through fear, but through memory. Not through power, but through love. And though no one dared sit beside her ever again, every heart aboard the Celestara knew one truth. The bravest seat in the universe had already been taken.